Going on, YouTubers, Mopar people? Here's another one of the projects I'm working on. This is my dad's 78 long bed Chevy pickup, and he's having an issue with it. Give me just a minute. I'm going to set the phone down. Okay, here it is. A while back, he went to go out and get in the truck to try to start it up, and it wouldn't do nothing. I traced every single wire, even all the fusible links, did tests on all the wires, traced all the wires back to the bulkhead. Okay. That's where it's having a starting issue. And I already checked from the steering column all the way down for the neutral safety switch, the whole 9 yards. Replaced all the switches, all that stuff. And then the other problem we were having, it wasn't getting any spark, and it's got the factory HEI ignition distributor. And so I replaced the coil and the rotor and anything else that pertained to that, and it still wasn't getting spark. So the only thing that was left to replace was the pickup coil. Well, in order to do that, you got to take the distributor out and take it all apart. Well, I did that, put everything back the way it was supposed to be, and went to drop the distributor back in and wouldn't go back in. Well, I read online, went to the YouTube channels, shows how to drop the Chevy distributors in, you know, bring the #1 piston up on the compression, advance the rotor to where when you slide it in, it rotates back into the position that you want. I had it where it would rotate back into the #1 spark plug wire position, and rotated the oil pump shaft, the whole 9 yards. And I don't know if you can see it back here. Maybe I could put the light on. See that gap down underneath there? Let me get something to point at it. Like I said, I apologize. It's just me by myself, so trying to do these videos. Okay, let's see here. All right, right down there. Here's the intake, and there's the bottom part of the distributor that's supposed to rest on top of the intake. You got probably about 5/16 of an inch gap. That thing is supposed to be sitting all the way down on top of a little flat O-ring gasket. And like I said, I tried all the tricks, talked to Chevy people, did the whole 9 yards, still not dropping in. So we figured maybe it was something to do with the oil pump itself. And as you can tell, this engine's pretty greasy. I still got to degrease this engine bay, degrease the engine itself, so you can see all the nasty caked up grease. The front seal around behind the harmonic balancer was leaking, so it was flinging oil all over the place. So I get the fun job of cleaning all this up, but we got that fixed anyway. And this engine was naturally dirty to begin with when my dad bought the truck used for like 800 bucks. But originally an Iowa truck, got a lot of rust under the bed and whatnot, but other than that, it's pretty solid. So anyway, it was leaking out of the pan gaskets pretty good, front and rear, and the side gaskets. So I got underneath there the other day, dropped the oil pan after I drained it. We wanted to change the filter and the oil pump anyway, because this is a real high mileage engine. We wanted to make sure it has good oil to make it last a little bit longer. And want to make sure it wasn't the but anyway, So got underneath there, dropped the oil pan right out, took the oil pump off and dropped out the oil pump shaft. And I figured, okay, well, if it was something to do with those items down below causing the distributor to hang up, and I was talking about this on the Wednesday night live chat with Uncle Tony and Dallas. So if somebody can, watching this, can get a hold of Dallas and Tony and have them watch this video. I'm explaining this more in detail compared to a live chat. You only got so much you can type in on a live chat with everybody else typing in and whatnot. So like I said, tried everything possible up top first, went down below, dropped the oil pan, took off the oil pump, slid out the oil pump shaft. So there's nothing from the bottom up that could possibly be in the way of the distributor dropping down into its position. Okay, so I figured all that stuff's out of the way, and I even shined the light up through past the crankshaft to see where I could see the gear teeth on the back of the camshaft. And I went ahead and went over here, put the engine, got the torque, the breaker bar, got the engine put back on compression stroke and on top dead center. Tried to drop the distributor back into position where it's supposed to be on the number one wire, and yet again it hung up. So keep in mind, nothing in there for it to obstruct, like oil pump, oil shaft, any of that stuff. So I got up underneath there, shined a really bright light up between the engine block and the crankshaft, and looked up there, and the teeth on the distributor matched up with the teeth on the camshaft, so they were, you know, locked into place like they're supposed to be. Well, I rigged I came over here and I took out all the spark plugs and sprayed all the cylinders really good with penetrating oil before I did this. I didn't try to start the engine, I just cranked it over. What I did is I ran a cheater wire, hooked the battery up, ran a cheater wire from off the starter up to here. See, as you can tell, they don't have the batteries ran down on its juice, but you can hear the starter clicking. Anyway, tried to let it rotate on its own to see if it would drop down in there. Wouldn't do a damn thing. Then I came over here, put a little pressure on the housing itself, and as this was rotating, and move this back and forth, it still wouldn't drop into place. So what I did is I ran a plank of wood over here, laid on it, took a really bright flashlight, took the distributor out, shined the light clear down in there. I can't find a single thing that would possibly cause it to be to catch. I talked to one old timer that's in town in Branson here that's got that's messed with Chevys and GMs for years. He was telling me about the distributor gear here, how I might need to take the roll pin out and completely rotate this gear assembly around and reline the holes back up and put the crush pin back in, because it could be off. But that's only if that part's off in there, that tooth. That's basically a straight edge screwdriver style tooth. I don't know, let me see if it doesn't want to seem to. Anyway, you see that tooth up in there. Well, anyway, so you have that tooth, and then the shaft is about 4 or 5 inches long, and on the end of the shaft you got a groove that tooth, that whole end of that oil pump shaft slides up in there and locks in with over that on each side. It's like on the end of that oil pump shaft, it looks like this, and that tooth slides into it, and on the other end it's got another straight edge tooth, and on the oil pump you got about inch and a half shaft that comes up again with a groove like this on the end of it, and that interlocks, and then between the tooth and the oil pump shaft itself, the oil pump with the shaft on the end, you either have a nylon sleeve that slides over each and locks into place, or you have the oil pump shaft with the built-in metal sleeve already on it. Anyway, as you can tell, it wouldn't make any difference because the gear teeth only run one way, and the teeth on the camshaft run the same way. So rotating this, even without the oil pump and oil pump shaft in it, would make any difference because there's no obstruction from here down. Okay, so we got, here is the factory distributor. Okay, and here is the aftermarket one we had. I measured from here. See, the only difference is this is a little bit skinnier compared to this one, but I measured from here all the way down to the end of this tooth, or to the end of this here, the shaft, aluminum shaft, compared to this one to this one, and they're all the same length. This one might be a little bit thicker, but this thick part goes up and not down. Anyway, then I figured, well, maybe it's warped. So I took my digital caliper and measured the width of each one of these sections, and all this, and the teeth, the outer diameter of the teeth on each one of them, and the length. I figured maybe we got one that was a little bit longer than the factory gear drive. Everything checks out, same width, same length, everything. I did notice that when I would put this distributor in on certain spots of the housing itself, on these flat spots here, what I call the piston sections, there were some polished spots where it looked like the engine was rubbing up against it. So I took some 150 grit sandpaper and then finished it off with an automotive Scotch-Brite pad, and I kind of cleaned up and down around here too. Maybe I figured there might be this lip or something might be catching. There might be a sharp spot or a flat spot catching or something. Tried everything I possibly could, drop it in, still no luck. So I don't know what's going on. The only thing I can think of, and they told me that on the live chat, that the cam for an older engine like this does not have that little nylon bump stop on the front of the cam that goes directly in the middle of the timing chain gear between the 3 bolts to keep the cam from sliding back and forth when it's operating. They said this one doesn't, these older engines don't have it because they don't have roller lifters or something like that. Anyway, then I asked people, what about if the cam bearings are wore down, because this is a really high mileage engine. They said, well, if it was that bad, you'd be losing oil pressure, or it wouldn't run right, it would be catching, it wouldn't rotate, or something, I don't know. Anyway, all I know is when we put this aftermarket intake on, we had to have a guy up the street that works on a variety of vehicles, but he's mainly a Chevy guy. I'm probably going to have to talk to him too. He was able to get the distributor in one time, and we left it in there ever since, but we had to take it back out, like I said, to replace that pickup coil, And ever since after that, we cannot get it back in there. And like I said, I've tried every trick in the book, every Chevy guy trick to get in the distributor to drop in, where you bump it, just let it rotate, and it's supposed to fall right in. Tried all the different sections, lining up the oil pump, the groove on the oil pump shaft to line up with the tooth on the bottom of the distributor. Something's amiss, something's a foul. I don't know what the hell's going on with this, but it's got to be fixed. Once we can get that, figure out what's wrong with that, then I can go over here where I trace the ignition issue to the bulkhead and figure out which connection is a loose connection on the bulkhead, and then maybe we can get this damn thing going. But if anybody has any comments, feel free to leave them down below. Sorry, the neighbor decided to start chainsawing in his backyard across the street. Anyway, anybody that's a Chevy guy on here or knows a lot about Chevys, let me know what you think. Figure out what the hell's going on with this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video.